And then below that is a warm body, and that is the absolute filler, bare minimum, like, okay, you didn't set the place on fire, so I guess that's good. I was having to hire just a bunch of warm bodies and people who would come into the kitchen with not just low knife skills, but bad knife skills.
Well, I think something that's important that companies don't really talk about a lot is we're not just selling our product, we're also selling jobs. Because if we're not bringing in people who are willing to buy in, our customers won't buy in. Our customers are going to find reasons to complain. And then they're sending back perfectly good steak to the kitchen because they realize that they can get into this person. Whereas you get somebody who's really good at their job, and if the customer's not super happy, they're going to pretend.
Sure. Also wanted to get back to the seasonality of Park City because I have a story from Sundance. And
oh, please.
Those unfamiliar, for the 10 days of Sundance, Park City basically becomes Manhattan or LA. It is high pace, doesn't really end. The party keeps going till the sun rises again. And 2 of the years I was there, I was running the very popular locals bar and kitchen off of Main Street. And we got very, very busy in those times, especially because, well, no one wanted to go up to Main Street, but hey, we're still open. And so they'd come over to us. And especially for Sundance, we would have to just hire extra hands because the prep cook is completely overwhelmed and the line cooks need someone there. And I side noting myself just a little bit here because I have a grand theory of echelons of cook, and it works for servers too. But you have a cook, and that's the high level. That's what you want to be. You want to be a cook. Below that is a pair of hands. That means you have some skills. You're not going to mess up on everything you touch. And then below that is a warm body, and that is the absolute filler, bare minimum, like, okay, you didn't set the place on fire, so I guess that's good. I was having to hire just a bunch of warm bodies and people who would come into the kitchen with not just low knife skills, but bad knife skills. First thing I want to show everyone, that like blade against your knuckle, like if your blade's here, you're never going to cut yourself. If you're cutting like this, then goodbye fingers. One of the main ideas I would kick to them is go to the grocery store, buy yourself a bag of potatoes and a bag of onions, because you can cut either of them into lots of different things, and you will. There are lots of ways to cut an onion, and a lot of different ways are valuable for different things. And also, potatoes and onions are cheap, so that's benefit. But there are a lot of different ways to cook them. So once you have them cut, then it's a potato, it's an onion. Now just put them in something and you're fine. But it just, the volume of work that we had, you're not going to get to your 10,000 hours of cutting just at work. Go home and practice too. Jackie Chan had a quote of he's not afraid of the messing it up, but he's not afraid of the man who knows who knows 1,000 different kicks. He is afraid of the man who knows one kick but has practiced 1,000 times. And that's onions to me. It just like practice thousands of onions. I wonder not just how many hours of my life have been spent cutting onions in the last 2 decades, both at home and in professional kitchens, but how many onions I've cut, because it has to be in the tens of thousands at this point. And not saying I'm the best onion cutter, but practice.
We do everything by weight, and obviously you can't put a sugar cone on a scale. It's pointing on the bottom. But one of the things that we require our team to do, and myself included, you're weighing those scoops. Our single is a 4.8 ounce scoop, which is like a good half a cup, third of a cup of ice cream, depending on the flavor. But every flavor has a little bit of a different weight by volume. And if you're not, the other thing is like, if you're not putting it on the scale, if you're not weighing it, and I'm sure you've done this with steaks, if you've done it with pours for bartending, if you're not weighing every single one at the outset, you're never going to get to that point where you're like, oh, great, I'm consistently hitting between 4.8 and 5.1. You're never going to get there if you don't keep practicing. And I've got my one person in that box is one of those people who's just like, well, I haven't done it because I didn't think of it. I was like, it is your job. If you do not start doing this, you are not going to have a job.
I got really good at portioning salmon because 6 or 8 ounce portions and really good at looking at kind of how thick it is, how wide it is, and knowing that's where my cut line should be. And so, of course, I'd, cut maybe 2, throw one on the scale to make sure I wasn't too far off. And like, oh, yeah, nope, I'm on. And just keep going. And it just, again, hundreds of fish.
Hundreds of fish.
Can't even.
Hundreds of fish. Thousands of gallons of ice cream. And
exactly. Big practice.
Yeah. And bringing it back to training, and especially working with people who are new in a position, for them to be like, well, what do you mean you're going to put me on write-up because I'm not weighing a thing? I'm like, I'm not putting you on write-up because you're not weighing it. I'm putting you on write-up because you are visibly giving the wrong portion to a customer, setting bad expectations, and basically wasting company product. That's the problem. And even though I've trained that person, they've been with the company now for a number of months, they are not doing their part. And that's part of training as well, is, as you said, like, you need to come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to learn, as opposed to be like, well, I did it this way at another place, so I know what I'm doing. It's like, do you know how we do it here? Because there's some weird ways that you might not realize we do things a little bit different.
That really brings me to one thing I wanted to talk about, both SOPs, standard operating procedures, and
SOP.
whether we have them or not, but then also useless forms of training. And I had to deal with one of those. But we will be back in just a moment here. Thank you for staying. Don't be Eeyore in an interview.
Yeah.